Everyone, I declare the meeting open. Straight off, I'll invite everyone to stand to say the opening Karakia.
Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā tara tara ki tai. E hi ake ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei Māori ora.
So, welcome everyone to today's Regulatory Processes Committee meeting. Please note the meeting is being live streamed. So if you are keen enough to look back on it at a later stage, it will be on YouTube and it may well go viral or not. Please let me or Democracy Services know, it's Officer Sean Johnson, if you intend to leave the meeting, and there'll be morning tea around 10:30 if we are still going at that stage. Apologies, I move we accept the apology from Mayor Foster, who won't be here at all, Deputy Mayor Free, who probably won't make it at all, and I believe Councillor Wolfe. I'm not sure if he'll be here at all or will just be late. Anyway, seconder please. Councillor Matthews, I put the motion that's been moved and seconded. Please vote accordingly. Thank you. Call on members to declare any conflicts of interest they may have in relation to any items on the agenda. Okay. I move that the Regulatory Processes Committee approves the minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of November. They be taken as read and confirmed as an accurate record of that meeting. Do I have a seconder, someone who has perhaps looked at the minutes? Councillor O'Neill, thank you. Put the motion which has been moved and seconded. Thank you. I declare the motion carried. There are no items not on the agenda. We have two public participants this morning. I'd like to invite to the table Paula Warren, who is speaking to us on item 2.2, that is traffic resolutions. Welcome, Paula. As you know, you have 5 minutes and perhaps allow questions in that time if you wish. Over to you.
Oh, sorry. Helps if it's turned on, doesn't it? So I'm talking generally about traffic resolutions. Streets are not small roads. Roads are places that are infrastructure to move things. Streets are public spaces. They're for multiple purposes. They're not just there for cars. In fact, their primary purpose is for people. At the very worst, a street can look like a car park. Just a collection of cars, a little narrow strip for people to walk and blank walls all around it. These are the sort of places that people avoid. What a street should be is much more like a park. That doesn't mean that it can't have traffic and that it can't have parking, but that has to be in the context. So a well-designed street will have space for people to move, for people to meet their friends, to talk. It will have things like seats and greenery. It will have edges which are interesting. It will be a place that people want to be. It will also be a place for biodiversity. Traffic resolutions, and I'm conscious that you're stuck with the awful NZTA process, but you're not completely stuck with it, tend to look at a single issue. They don't look at the context. They don't look at the space that that issue is sitting in. They don't look at the overall ways in which we could improve that space. I've been here off and on for decades now, consistently arguing for you to do what I call precinct plans. Actually go out and look at spaces and think about what it could be like and then gradually get it there through community restoration projects, through traffic resolutions. Actually have some sense of where you're going rather than fiddling at the edges on little issues, which is what your traffic resolution system is doing. And think about all of those other things. So in one of the traffic resolution submissions, I suggested that we put a seat so that workers can actually sit next to Kaifora Stream and enjoy that environment. There's plenty of space for it. My trust can help do it. But how do you actually get things like that to happen? The council processes impede rather than make easy those sort of things. The other thing that we need to be very conscious of, and it's going to get worse and worse as we end up with a denser city, is that you can't afford to have any space out there used for one purpose. So, for example, I've been arguing in the parking process that we can provide disabled parking and tradesperson drop-off parking in the same space. You just have different rules about how long the different cars are allowed to stay there. We need to be getting much more imaginative to make sure that these spaces can be used for multiple things. You can have space for trucks to turn in an industrial street, and if the trucks are not there very often, there's no reason why it shouldn't be used for the workers to sit at lunchtime. You just have furniture that can be easily moved. We don't have to have an urban designer who concretes in a whole lot of expensive infrastructure. You can just provide things for the local people to use. So, yeah, I'm essentially arguing for you to look much more broadly at your streets, at streetscapes, and then look at your traffic resolutions in a context rather than as just a single issue. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Paula. Any questions, Paula? I'll just ask one question. I guess you accept that Wellington is a very, very complex situation here, in that so many of the streets are on our hills, and so many of the older houses do not adequately cater for in terms of parking. And do you think it's reasonable that people have an expectation that they should be able to park on the street if they can't buy a property that doesn't have adequate garaging?
No. If they want a property with garaging, they should get a property with garaging. And particularly, I live just up the hill there. My neighbours have far too many cars, to be frank. They're inner city dwellers. 30% of inner city dwellers do not have any car. A lot of my neighbours have two. This is why car share companies are so important, so that people have access to a car. They don't need to permanently store it, and if they want to, my neighbours could hire a space in a car parking building. It is not the obligation of the council to give up the space that my tradesmen need in order to permanently store their property.
Fair comment. Okay, thank you very much, Paula.
Thank you.
Our next public participant is well known to us, Patrick Morgan, but we have not seen Patrick walk in, so...
9:40 probably, so he's got 2 minutes.
Okay. Look, we'll come, if Patrick arrives within the next 5 minutes, we'll allow him to speak, but we will just carry on with our first item of general business, which is 2.1 proposed road closures. So I'd like to invite to the table Maria Tamo and Sean Woodcock to answer any questions. So, councillors, if you're going to put up your hand with the numerous questions that you... I'm desperately trying to think up a question so that your time is not wasted, but so no, in terms of the public notice, public advertisement about the cycle race, that was just straightforward, the getting the revised one into the newspaper in November. Mary.
Missed out last time.
Yeah, so no problems there.
No,
okay.
It's been checked, triple checked, and checked again.
Yeah.
Councillor Condi.
Just quickly on the road closure for the car race. Now, obviously, it's not going to be an issue this year, but Councillor Wolf was saying that in previous years we've had a clash with the race and really busy cruise ship days. Is that something that we now kind of check when we're booking summer events? Obviously, as I said, that's not going to be an issue for this year. But if we're lucky enough to have open borders by next summer, is there a process for us to check those sorts of things?
Yes, we definitely need to make sure that it's on the program or in front of everybody who's across it to counter those ships that hopefully come back to New Zealand. Yes.
Thank you very much. We shall move on. We have the 3 temporary road closure proposals before us. They are all repeat events. No objections have been received to any of them. Therefore, I move that we accept officers' recommendations 1, 2, A, B and C, and 3. A seconder for this, please. Thank you, Councillor Condi. Do you wish to speak? Any debate on the issue? Councillor Matthews is ready to vote. So I put the motion which has been moved and seconded. Please vote. Okay. Thank you, Maria. Sean?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for all your efforts over the year. It is appreciated. Right. Item 2.2, traffic resolutions. What we'll do is we'll invite the officers to the table. I will give you the opportunity to ask questions of them, and then we shall hand over to Councillor Condi to introduce the report. So welcome to Soon Tek Kong and Wendy Ferguson.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions for officers from councillors in regard to the 6 traffic resolutions? Councillor Condi.
Okay. Thanks, Soon. Just when we were discussing the traffic resolution on Hadfield Terrace in Kelburn, we talked about the fact that we're going to use some new road markings there that we haven't used before for the motorcycle parking. Can you just tell councillors about that?
What happened is that normally we take away one car parking space, and what we have researched around New Zealand is that Auckland Transport in particular has been sort of allowing spaces that are less than one vehicle space for things like motorcycle parking, bicycle parking, things like that. So they actually don't put broken yellow lines to stop everyone from using it. So those small space of 3 meters can be used for a motorcycle or something that are small of that type. So I've sort of promised Councillor Condi that I'll send those pictures, but I think I've forgotten. Yeah. So, yeah.
Can you? So we're going to be using new road markings that we haven't used in Wellington before as a trial.
Yes.
But it's the same markings they've been using in Auckland for a while.
Yes. Yeah, we use the same format as what Auckland has been using. It's informal, but it's not something that NZTA has formally regulated, but it's something that advise the public that this is still a space that you can use for a smaller vehicle as long as you fit within those markings.
And do we have a plan for how we're going to explain that to kind of the residents on the street, since it's going to be the first time anyone in Wellington's seen this?
We are working with comms on just a letter drop to see, advise the public and feedback.
Thanks, Soon. And then I've just got one other question about the Adelaide Road traffic resolution. Again, when we were talking about that, I was asking whether we can extend that centre median, the double yellows, a bit further down, because the cycling community were essentially asking us that if we can keep those double yellows as far down the road as possible, it gives them a bit more space through there. And you were telling me that we can look into that. Essentially, we'll do it as far as we can safely do it. Can you just tell the councillors about that as well?
Yeah, the discussion we had was we've got to be conscious of there's the access point further south of where the broken yellow lines are, so we need to ensure that any vehicle that is stopped to make a right turn can safely make a right turn. So we extend the yellow lines as far as possible, but still allow a space in the flush median to allow a vehicle to stop safely without someone running to the back of it. So that will be a redesign of the road marking. It doesn't need a traffic resolution for that sort of traffic management scheme.
The third participant this morning who wasn't able to turn up was Fergus Wilkes, who was going to speak on Hadfield Terrace in Kelburn, and I was formulating a question in my mind, which I'm going to ask it anyway, but I think you're going to give the answer, which I'm aware you're going to give, and that is, he was one of those who had concerns about Hadfield Terrace. There were a couple of others, I think, but obviously my question is, you have taken into account the various concerns raised by those who have objected to the particular traffic resolution here for Hadfield Terrace, Kelburn. So you've taken into consideration their concerns and still feel that what you proposed is the best solution. It may not be the ideal solution, but it is the best solution in the circumstances.
We look at all the options that we have, and this is an option that will allow access to the property itself, because currently what's happening is vehicles are parked right against the stair to the property. So if a car is parked too close, they can't even get into their property. So this 3 meters is to allow a space for them to access their property, and the remaining space that used to be a car park is now used for smaller motorbikes and bicycles to be stored. So that to answer your question, Councillor Sparrow, is that, yeah, we look at all options to minimize the loss of parking but provide access to the property.
I mean, obviously we're never going to keep everyone happy, but it's fair for people to express the concerns that they do have, which we endeavour to address. Anyway, over to Councillor Condi to introduce the report. Thank you.
All right. Kia ora team. Because there's so few, I'll just actually quickly whip through and talk about each one in turn. So the Courtney Place resolution, there's been a trial in place there for a while where we've allowed outdoor dining in some spaces that have been angle car parks, and it's gone really well. So we're essentially putting this permanently into place by putting broken yellow lines through that little section, which is great for the outdoor kind of placemaking, but it's also a safety issue around that corner. So that's really great. There's also some markings on your drawing about those angle parks. We're not actually changing anything on the street for those angle parks. We're updating our database. Quite often when we do these traffic resolutions, we realise that the database doesn't match the markings on the street. So it's a chance for us to just tidy that up. The other thing that you may have noticed is we had lots and lots of submissions on the one about Courtney Place, many in favour, which is not usually our experience. And the reason for that was that we had a database error that required a response to that traffic resolution before you could respond to any of the other traffic resolutions. So everybody who came in to comment on any traffic resolution had to tell us what they thought about Courtney Place. So once we figured out that was going on, it was fixed, and so not everybody did. But it's why, if you were wondering why so many people had an opinion about Courtney Place, which I was, that's why. And then if we go to Hadfield Terrace, as Soon was saying, it must be blooming frustrating to have the stairs to your property come down, and then you come and come home with your shopping or whatever. The car is parked right across the stairs, and you literally cannot get to the stairs. Like, you have to clamber over and around a car parked there. So as much as we acknowledge the parking loss, this really is an essential change for us to make so these people can just get to their house. And I really appreciate the innovation the officers are showing here about how we can kind of try and use the half parking space, and look forward to hearing kind of how that goes once we've implemented that. It's really great. I think Adelaide Road, we were expecting Patrick to come in and I'm sure tell us how wonderful this is and how appreciated it is by the cycling community to extend these broken yellow lines. This has been a real concern for them, and we really appreciate the work and changes that have been making this spot much safer. We've just seen this week with a serious accident in Karakia how important it is that we fix some of these dangerous spots for our cyclists around Wellington. So I know the community are really grateful for the work that's gone into this space. which is evidenced by all the public feedback that we got on that traffic resolution as well. On School Road in Kaiwharawhara, we've got a new building going in there, so we're just sort of tidying up to make sure we've got broken yellow lines in the right places. In the past, this has been a street that wasn't heavily used, but as more and more development's going in there, we just need to make sure that the broken lines are kind of up to scratch. There's heavy vehicles that operate at the top of the street, so we need to make sure they've got enough room to be able to get past there. So we've got a narrow spot here where we're adding broken yellow lines, and then just at the intersection, we've had some issues with parking, and it means that cars sort of can't get in and out past each other. So we're just tidying that up as well so that the intersection will flow smoothly. And then Alice Street in Mount Victoria, you might remember we did the traffic resolution on Alice Street with the bus stops for the schools not that long ago, and one of the kind of quid pro quos we discussed with the community there was that because we were taking out some residence parking to make those bus stops go earlier in the morning, that we would find them some more residence parking in their street. So that's what this is. This is following up from that promise we made to them. So I acknowledge the comments. It was interesting. We got 3 comments all saying no to more residence parking on this one. And I acknowledge that you know, we have to prioritise our street space for the public use of and public benefit. But in fact, that is what we were doing here. We've been prioritising the street space for a school bus stop. And part of that was acknowledging residents' concerns, and so that's what this resolution is about. And then Luxford Street on Berempore, I think we've got some public toilets there, and people often want to be able to come in and stop and use the public toilets, but they can't. The parking is often used all day long. So there have been problems then with people parking across driveways and other things that are inconvenient for the residents. So I think it's a great idea to put a P10 right outside the public toilet. That's going to be just during the day when parking pressure is at its highest, so that residents or other people can still park there at night. But it means that we're making it a bit easier for taxi drivers and other people who need to, you know, stop while they're doing their rounds at work and be able to stop and use the public facilities there. So that is our set of traffic resolutions for the week, for the month. And our last for the year.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Can I have a seconder? Thank you.
Seconded by Councillor Matthews. Yeah. You don't wish to speak? So no debate? Okay, let us vote. Still making up your mind? Right. Okay, that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, officers.
Thank you, councillors, and have a good year.
Yeah. Yes. I was going to officially invite you. Everything has gone through, and Councillor Condi mentioned that you would be here, Patrick, if you had been here, it would have been in support of the proposed resolution. So welcome, Deputy Mayor Free, and we're going to finish with the closing Karakia. Unuhia,
ki te uru tapu nui. Kia wātea, kia mama, te ngākau, te wairoa. I te ara taka rongo, whakaria a aira kua wātea.
I declare the meeting closed now that the Deputy Mayor